Life is a process.
But so you had this simple system from Graham making loads of money, but then you had your academics and the researchers at your university saying something completely different. And so that begs the question, why were the academics so convinced that the traders were deluded, even though the traders were making so much money? Well, it can all actually be traced back to what is called the efficient market hypothesis. So basically, the efficient market hypothesis states that it is futile to attempt to make profits by exploiting currently available information, such as past price trends. And that actually came out with Farmer in 1970. So essentially, they said, hey, it's impossible to make money with past prices because all of that is already priced into the market. So whatever information you have at hand right now will already be reflected in the price. Therefore, you cannot predict where the market's going to go based on past information such as past prices, patterns, historical amounts, aka technical analysis. And this conclusion was backed up by studies. There were negative findings in several early and widely cited studies of technical analysis in the stock market, such as Farmer and Bloom, Van Horn and Parker, and Jensen and Bennington. And for example, actually, let's take Dr. Farmer and Dr. Bloom. They looked at using technical analysis across 30 securities and compared it to buy and hold strategy. Only 3 strategies yielded a better result than the market overall. And if you actually take into account the brokerage fee, then the result is either worse or equal than the buy and hold strategy. So basically, in other words, don't waste your time. Buy and hold is better. Just buy and hold on for dear life, because there is less room for error and smaller brokerage fees. The pipe dream of using past prices to determine the future ones was actually a fantasy. So there were 2 camps. You had camp number 1, which is traders who firmly believed that they could make money from technical analysis past prices, like Graham, who was making literally millions of dollars. And then you had camp number 2 saying, hey, there's no evidence for that, except for the money making is all a fluke. Like, none of this is really true. But they firmly believe that they just got lucky or they lied, and that the market is too efficient to be exploited in this way. However, there was one phenomenon that the academics could not actually explain. Inside a study conducted by Dr. Irwin in 2007, he actually found that early studies indicate that technical trading strategies were profitable in foreign exchange markets and futures markets, but not in stock markets. So what's going on here? So the academics who were arguing with the Wall Street traders could not explain why technical analysis worked in the forex and the futures markets in their own studies. Right? So, for example, Leuthold found that technical analysis can generate an annual net return of 115.8% in the forex market, and his research factored in the brokerage fees and the spread. This directly went against everything the academics were saying up until that point. And in a study of studies, they concluded that the following research showed substantial net profits in the forex market. You have Schmidt, Stevenson and Baer, Cornell and Dietrich, Dooley and Schaefer, Irwin and Uhrig, Sweeney, Taylor. And while these guys were doing this in the markets in the 1980s, Mark was actually trading there in Merrill Lynch. So in other words, for some reason, the efficient market hypothesis didn't apply to the forex markets and the massive returns that could be made using past prices, and the academics couldn't explain why. And this controversy actually led to an explosion in scientific research. Dr. Irwin actually states, he says, the controversy about the usefulness of technical analysis had led to a voluminous literature on the subject. Hopefully I said that correctly. Empirical studies have investigated the profitability of technical trading rules in a variety of markets for the purpose of either uncovering profitable trading rules or testing market efficiency, or both. Okay, so up until this point, we have covered quite a lot of complicated and boring scientific information. So let's just recap exactly what's happening here. Traders believe they can make money from the markets using past prices because they're actually making money from the market using past prices. Then you have academics that didn't believe them and did a bunch of studies trying to prove them wrong. But then the academics found out that the traders were right when it came to the forex and the futures markets. For some reason, they could make a lot of money using past prices. So this crazy roller coaster of scientific events led to an explosion of new research. So that is where we are right now. So what did the research reveal? What did the new stuff actually reveal? Well, when Dr. Irwin looked into this, he actually made a shocking discovery. In his own words, he said, "This conclusion to the efficient market hypothesis should be tempered in light of several limitations in the testing procedures of early studies." So basically, in other words, early academics were so intent on proving their point that they didn't even test all of the strategies. And only some strategies were tested, and mostly ones that Wall Street traders knew didn't work. So Dr. Irwin uncovered 5 cardinal sins committed by the early academics. First of all, we've already covered the first. They didn't even test all the strategies. They didn't conduct statistical tests of significance. In other words, there was zero proof that the market efficiency hypothesis was even real. They didn't control the risk when testing technical analysis, something that's the cornerstone of any good trading strategy. And the results were reported in averages. So on average, this thing didn't work, but it meant there could actually have been pockets of cases where it does work. And they didn't have mechanisms that dealt with data snooping. So as a result of that, scientists started dismissing the studies from the old academics. They started dismissing it. So among a total of 95 modern studies, which are accepted, 56 studies find positive results regarding technical trading strategies, 20 studies obtain negative results, and 19 studies indicate mixed results. So there are many different trading strategies that use technical analysis. However, only some of them work. It is important to only pick the ones that work. I know this sounds super obvious, but there is a ridiculous number of people using the ones that don't work. So let's go back to this question. Is it possible to use past prices to predict with scientific significance where the market is going to go? And the answer is yes. It is a scientific fact that you can use past prices to predict where the market is going to go. But, and this goes without saying, only some strategies yielded substantial profits according to the research. So, have you ever used a strategy based on technical analysis that didn't work? Or have you ever been so sure of something just for that strategy or system to fail you? And have you ever felt frustrated and humiliated that you put all of your faith in something or someone that kind of let you down? Well, you don't have to worry. It happens to the best of us. It isn't your fault for not spending 10,000 hours researching actual scientific evidence out there. The truth is, some strategies work and others don't. Now, most of the new research was about uncovering profitable trading rules, and today Mark will be revealing an exact scientific strategy that came out of this huge body of research that he learned in the trenches. Just to be clear, Mark didn't actually learn this from the scientists. He learned this from the Wall Street practitioners, people who were actually practicing this stuff and then refined it for himself over time.